Hello everybody and welcome back to the United Stand and happy Friday morning. Welcome everybody to the United Stand news show. I am Beth and I'm going to be bringing you all the Manchester United news this morning. So more leaks coming out of Carrington, more leaks coming out of the dressing room as Manchester United players fear they will not win another game this season, and the mood and the atmosphere is said to be miserable inside the dressing room as most of the players are convinced that Ten Hag will be sacked. Graham Potter turns down the Ajax job as he feels like it's not the right opportunity for him in the present. Is he holding out for the Manchester United job? I think he is. I think he has a good relationship with INEOS. I think he's definitely up there as one of the candidates that Manchester United could bring in. And also the Mirror as well, talking about Thomas Tuchel and Gareth Southgate being big candidates for the Manchester United job if Ten Hag is sacked at the end of the season. The Mirror as well, always been close to Ten Hag, is saying that it is expected that Ten Hag will be sacked come the end of the season. It's kind of just riding it out the same way that we did with Rangnick, riding it out, and it is expected that Ten Hag will be sacked. I'm not certain he will be, but I definitely think it's a big possibility. Going to be talking about that in the chat as well. Also, a little bit of stuff surrounding the left-back situation at Manchester United and what left-back we could go for in the summer. We've been told that we're going to go for a young left-back, but we're now being linked to 30-year-old Atlético Madrid left-back. So what direction are Manchester United going to go in? And Sir Jim Ratcliffe wants to do a fresh report, an investigation into all of Manchester United's injury issues as he looks to fix the injury crisis at Manchester United and feels the need to do a thorough investigation of this situation, which of course I think is a good thing. But welcome to the chat, everybody. Beth Bridge is in the house on this Friday morning, and honestly, Man United can't ruin my weekend this weekend. It's going to be bittersweet because, one, if we beat Arsenal, buzzing we beat Arsenal. I don't think we will, but I'll be like, you know, it's always good to win as Manchester United. But if we lose, as long as we don't get thrashed, which could easily happen, as long as we don't get thrashed. If we lose, then we keep Arsenal alive in the title race because I don't want City to win the league. So realistically, this weekend, either result will suit me, to be honest with you. So that's something to look forward to going into the weekend. And honestly, I'm just counting down the days till the FA Cup final. Would you play Martinez in that game? That's a question for you. I honestly don't think Martinez should play again this season. I know he's going to go to Copa America, but I don't think he should play again this season. Realistically, having him back for the final, is he even going to be match fit? And is it going to make that much of a difference? I love Martinez, but it's not as if he's, you know, match fit and in form. I would love to just keep him taking over and save him for the start of next season, start off on a fresh, get the fitness up and prevent any further injuries to Lisandro Martinez. That's my opinion on the situation. I think I wouldn't play him again this season, to be honest with you. Buzzing he's back, but I want him to be fresh and ready to go for the start of next season. But yeah, that is my thoughts on Martinez, and also just counting down to the FA Cup final. The season is nearly at an end and I can't wait for it to end, to be honest, and it's sad to feel this way as a Manchester United fan. But let's get into the show. So it's coming from the Mirror that Manchester United players fear they may not win another game this season. You and me both. You and me both. I said it last week on the build-up show before Palace that Man United might not win another game this season, like genuinely, but the players shouldn't have this mindset. They should not have that mindset as professional athletes. The fans, of course, the fans can speculate, but the players shouldn't be feeling that way. Morale and confidence is so low among Ten Hag's squad that there is a feeling among many of the players that their season could be all but over. I understand why the morale is low. I understand why the dressing room is feeling it. At the end of the day, this has been an absolutely terrible season, and as professional athletes that want to win everything, you're going to be gutted that the season has turned out the way it is. Obviously, no one's going to be singing from the rooftops in that Man United dressing room. Not everyone's going to be bouncing around, but it's time for the leaders, and we've been saying this all season, it's time for the leaders in that dressing room to step up and be leaders. And to be honest, it is a little bit too little too late, but we've got an FA Cup final to win. All season, we have had injury crisis, we have had issues off the pitch, we've had issues on the pitch, and it feels like there's been such a lack of leadership within that dressing room. Obviously, I think Bruno Fernandes can hold his head high. He's not had the best season in terms of his form, but I feel like every single game he gives everything, but I can't say that for every single one of them players. And for me, there's a lot of unprofessionalism within that Manchester United squad. who is there to blame? Oh, the manager, we've done that one before. We've blamed the manager before. Oh, we don't feel like we're going to win another game this season because the manager's going to get sacked. Step up, professional pride, and you're wearing the Manchester United shirt. There's been too many excuses. Okay, yeah, Ten Hag has had a really poor season and there's a lot of blame that he can be held accountable for. There's stuff off the pitch that are out of the players' control that can be held accountable for to contribute towards a poor season. Sir Jim Ratcliffe has spoken openly about it being a really tough environment to breed success from a manager or player's point of view. I get all them things, but we're so busy to play the blame game at Manchester United time after time with different managers, and too many excuses for my liking, no matter what the injuries were or the situation. For professional athletes that get paid that amount of money, that are at this point in their career playing for Manchester United, to throw away the 3-0 lead to Coventry at Wembley in an FA Cup semi-final. Like, you can look at the manager all you want, you can look at things behind the scenes all you want, but that's players. Like, you should be able to see that game out as your professional pride, and you as top-level professional footballers, top level being used kind of tongue, like, you know, being used loosely there, top level. Some of the players I think in Manchester United's team are top level, some of them aren't, but there's been games this season where it's just basic level stuff. Crystal Palace was the most obvious one. All of them goals could have been prevented. Yes, okay, people can say Onana could have done better on a couple of them, I agree. But even the build-up to them goals, the throw-in, when we've got all the players, most of the players on, you know, going to our attacking third, and the defensive third, there's like a couple of players dotted about and they're taking a throw-in to go and attack onto our goal. And you're not even marking in the correct shape or the correct situations. And you can see Ten Hag going mental. There's so many things this season where you look at it and you think, like, I get the manager has a lot to be held accountable for, but as a player, how are you not taking more responsibility? Casemiro's a big one, constantly diving in, time after time after time. The positioning. You're playing centre-back and then next thing you know, you're ending up in basically cam when you've got no legs and then you're left to dive in. And there's players just in the wrong positions over and over again. You know, cutbacks, how many times have we been caught off them? And of course the manager has to do better, but players in these situations, they're just basic level things as footballers that you get taught from a very early age. That throw-in one was just massively unacceptable. So for me, yes, Ten Hag needs to be held accountable. I understand why INEOS are potentially looking to sack him. I tweeted out last night saying, I've never been more undecided on anything in my life than I am the Manchester United manager situation. People keep telling me I'm sat on the fence. I'm genuinely not. I just can't make my mind up. Maybe I am sat on the fence then. I just can't make up my mind. I keep going back and forth. Sometimes I'm like, yeah, okay, maybe a fresh start's needed. And then sometimes I'm like, oh, but Ten Hag was such a good manager before this season. Like, maybe we should just give him another chance. Keep going back and forth in it. I think about it all day, every day. I don't know about you guys. And that might make me an absolute saddo. But Manchester United is my life, literally. Like, we talk about on the shows all the time. I want the best for them as much as all you do. We might have different opinions, but I think we all want what's best for Manchester United. So I think about it quite often, and as much as Ten Hag has been poor this season, players just instantly looking to turn it all onto the manager. It just shows what type of characters that we have. And I do think there's some really good eggs in that dressing room. I really do. I think Bruno Fernandes, I think Diogo Dalot, Lisandro Martinez. I think there's players in that dressing room that want to win with Manchester United and want to put the work in. There's players that need to develop in terms of them as players, but I think have the right attitude and want to win. Rasmus Højlund being one of them, Alejandro Garnacho, Kobbie Mainoo. Like, I think there is players in that dressing room that have the right mentality to play for Manchester United, but I think we've fed into this culture of blaming the manager cycle after cycle, time and time again, that it literally is, like I said on a show the other day, panic button, blame the manager and we're going to put it all on him. No, take responsibility for your own terrible performances, because it's a contribution from the players, from the manager, from the structure at the football club, and a history of failure, to be honest with you. But anyway, let's get a super chat in that's coming in. Patrick Lynch says, the only people who can stop us from losing every game are the players and the manager. Players believing they might lose every game is a terrible mentality. Shows how badly a clear out is needed. Exactly. It's such a poor mentality. Do you know when you tell yourself you're going to lose a game of football, you are literally manifesting yourself into losing a game of football? And people will laugh at this, but I believe this so much. Like, the way I live my life personally, and it's really helped me in terms of just being a more positive and happy person and being a more successful person as well, is, for example, these are just, people are going to laugh at this, but these are just little things. When I'm going into, you know, the car park at Tesco on a really busy day, I am going to get a good car parking space today. When I'm going onto a show on the United stand, this is going to be a good show today. This is going to be a really good forum today. When I'm ever doing anything challenging in life, you tell yourself you're going to do it. I've got into my running recently. When I'm going to do a 10K, I'm going to do a 10K 5 minutes per kilometre today. I'm going to do that. You tell yourself these things that you're going to do. You tell yourself that you're going to be successful. And do you think any high-level athletes are going into, I mean, it's a bit different than Tesco car park, but do you think any high-level athletes are going into games saying, we're going to lose this today? That is a loser's mentality. Do you think Cristiano Ronaldo ever thinks he's going to lose a game of football in his life? Ever? No, because he believes in himself, he believes in his own ability, and he goes into every single game to win. To say that you think you're going to lose every game of the season from now is such a loser's mentality. And Patrick Lynch, you're absolutely correct. I mean, I'm not an athlete, and I've not got a patch on anyone in that Manchester United squad of where they've got up to in their career. But I would never go into anything telling myself that I'm going to lose. Anything. It's like, how do you expect to win an FA Cup final against one of the best teams that's ever been in Manchester City? Like, if this is the mentality that the players have got, genuinely, we have no chance in that final. And I've been really looking forward to that final because I always say, obviously, the favourites are Manchester City. Obviously, like, there've never been more favourites ever, I think, against Manchester United. But on the day, over a 90-minute game of football, or maybe 120 minutes, depending on if it goes to extra time, we'd be lucky if it does, you never know what's going to happen. And you always have belief. So even though like 9 times out of 10 City would beat us, there is a small % chance that Manchester United could win that FA Cup final. And I go into it thinking, you know what, I do have a level of excitement because we've had such negativity all season, but there has been the odd glimmer of hope. For example, the Liverpool game in the FA Cup, and I think maybe we could win it. But if the players are actually going into that game saying they don't think they're going to win another game all season, we have absolutely no chance. That is, you might as well forfeit the match. You honestly might as well forfeit the match. That is you going into the game telling yourself you've already lost. You might as well not even walk out onto the field. You've already give Man City the win in the dressing room. So for me, that's really worrying that players have a feeling that they're not going to win another game all season. So you don't think you have a chance of winning the FA Cup then. Something that all the Man United fans are really excited for. No matter where you are, you've got to have that belief that you're going to win. And to not have that, it sets such a bad precedent. And honestly, after that coming out, I mean, I already thought we probably won't win another game all season anyway. As a fan, I'm not the one playing for the badge every single week. But as players, if you've got that cohesive mentality that you don't think you're going to win another game, then I'd be very doubtful that we will, honestly, especially after that Palace game. The only one I was holding out hope for was the FA Cup final, but if you've really got that mentality, then we've got no chance, going to be honest with you. So I'm hoping that isn't everybody in that Manchester United team, and I don't think it is, because like I said, I do think there is some good characters in there, and I do think there is some winners in there that are getting weighed down by the environment at Manchester United and potentially, you know, other factors that are weighing them down. But it's worrying signs that is coming out of the Manchester United dressing room. It really is. Tracy Taylor says, morning Beth, I really think these players need to look at themselves. Eric Ten Hag can only do so much. Clear out the rubbish players. Thanks, Tracy. There needs to be a massive clear out, and I agree. Like, even if you think the manager is absolute rubbish, you don't like him, or you're fed up, just look at yourself in the mirror and think, I get to go and wear this Manchester United shirt every single weekend. There is fans following me up and down the country, giving me their undying support, even when I've just lost 4-0 against Crystal Palace and had an absolute shocker of a performance. Like, I need to give them something back before the end of the season. I need to play for myself, for my own professional pride. Like, there's a point where you've got to come together as the leaders in that group, as a collective, even if there is unrest in the dressing room, even if there has been disagreements, and just come together and say, look, this has been a really poor season, but we have a chance to salvage that with this FA Cup, and it starts now. It starts by winning games of football now, getting ourselves into good form for the FA Cup final, which, by the way, it's literally in 2 weeks, isn't it? And let's have a positive end to a horrible season. Let's pick up points towards the end of the season. Really difficult games. Everyone thinks we're going to lose. Let's prove them wrong, and let's go into that FA Cup final with a bit of positivity behind us. But instead, we're getting leaks about not thinking we're going to win. Oh no, we don't think we're going to win another game all season. Erik Ten Hag's going to get sacked. Excuses after excuses after excuses. I'm sick of them. I'm sick of the excuses. Erik Ten Hag might deserve the sack. Some people will think he does, some people think he doesn't. But as players, show some professional pride. That's all I'm asking. That's all I'm asking. United Nick says, even though he's made bad decisions, the most important thing is the clear out. And if Erik Ten Hag gets sacked, the clear out won't happen or won't be as big. I honestly don't know if the clear out... I do think there's going to be a clear out, whether Erik Ten Hag stays or goes. But I also think we're not going to get rid of like 20 players in one transfer window. It's going to happen over quite a few transfer windows. But I do currently, until they give me proof otherwise, believe INEOS and believe it when Romano comes onto the show saying things are going to be different. There is going to be a clear out. There is going to be more ruthlessness. I'm trying to believe it. I don't think they'll be able to do it all in one window, but let's give it a bit of patience, and hopefully, this time next year we're sat here and we're in a completely different situation. We're going into like the last phase of the overhaul of this squad, getting players out in the summer. January is always tough, but some players out in the January potentially, and then next summer as well, getting the last remaining players out that we need to do a squad overhaul. The one thing I would say is I hear a lot of people all the time saying, Erik Ten Hag always praises this squad. He's not going to do an overhaul if he does stay as manager. He likes all the players that we think should go. And what I would say is, do not believe everything you hear from Erik Ten Hag in his press conferences. Prime example, and I know a lot of you won't like this. Prime example, how many times did Erik Ten Hag get asked about David De Gea last season? How many times did he say he's an amazing goalkeeper, he's really respected at this football club? Which obviously he did have a lot of respect and he deserved that respect, but he used to always say they were planning ahead with De Gea as their goalkeeper. He used to always big him up, even until like the last game of the season. Even in the FA Cup final last season when we lost it and De Gea did have a poor performance in that game, he still praised De Gea after that game. And as soon as he got the opportunity, he shipped him off. So don't believe everything you hear about what Erik Ten Hag says about this player is really important to me, this player's this player's that. He's got a track record of doing that. He doesn't slag players off in press conferences. Even the Sancho situation, people say the Sancho situation, he never slagged him off. People asked him where he was. All he did was not lie. He could have said he was ill, he didn't lie. He just said he didn't make the squad because of the training. That wasn't slagging him off. I think it got took way out of context. But last season, De Gea always praised De Gea and then got rid of him at the earliest opportunity in a really ruthless way. Even I thought we should have moved on to a new goalkeeper, but even I thought that was like really ruthless. And he did that. So as much as he's talking about these players that you think need to be changed and sold in the summer, remember that what Erik Ten Hag says in his press conference compared to his actions, what he does, are often quite different. So I would remember that when you're worrying about a squad overhaul under Erik Ten Hag, because I hear all the time, Ten Hag always picks these players, he always defends them in press conferences. That means, he's not going to get rid of him. Picked De Gea every single week last year. Obviously, he was our best goalkeeper, but he also praised him in presses all the time, and then he got rid of him when the opportunity came. So he has got that side to him. United One said, great news that Sir Jim Ratcliffe plans to launch a thorough investigation on injuries and consequently the training methods. Can't fault INEOS so far. Yeah, United won. It's really big news, and it should have been done years ago, because this year has been obviously one of the worst. I think it is the worst that we've ever seen in Manchester United's history in terms of injuries. But we've had poor injury issues for quite a number of years, and we've never solved it or done anything about it. What I will say about Serge and Ratcliffe and INEOS, which is really impressing me so far, they are taking action. They're not just talking, they are taking action. Omar Barada in, Jason Wilcox in, Dan Ashworth tried to get him in, tried to ask for a crazy fee. We're not having our pants pulled down. We'll take you into legal action if we need to. He will be in soon. The manager situation, a decision will be made on it at the end of the season, but they've not rushed it. They've not hit the panic button and be like, Ten Hag, you're sacked. They're evaluating it. They're taking their time and they're trying to come to a proper decision. Sir Dave Brailsford is evaluating all of Carrington. They've come to the conclusion that it needs a massive upgrade and it's not fit for a top-level sports facility. Sir Dave Brailsford is doing all of these investigations behind the scenes. Jason Wilcox has already started evaluating everything that's going on in training. Eric Ten Hag, the whole culture of Manchester United, they are taking action, and this investigation into the injuries and the medical department and the training methods, it absolutely needs to happen, because they might come out of that thinking training literally hasn't changed since last year and training is absolutely normal for a top-level club. Our medical staff and the medical equipment are not up to the standard that we need. Or they might come out of it saying, the medical staff are having to deal with all of these injuries because the training isn't the requirements that we need. They're going to have an investigation and they're going to come to a conclusion. I think that's the most important thing. Remembering science back in the day, you had your hypothesis, then you had, your method, then you had your evaluation, your conclusion, and you would either disprove or prove your hypothesis. Hypothesis: Manchester United are getting so many injuries because of Eric Ten Hag's training methods. Evaluate it, and you either come to a conclusion, actually, we have disproved our hypothesis because medical staff, this, that, or we have proved our hypothesis because we have seen this, and that. So we're going to do that, and I think that's really, really important, especially going into next season, because we can't have another situation like this. I think there's a lot of contributing factors. I don't think you can pin it all on one thing. One big contributing factor is we played the most games, I think, in Europe last season. Hangover from that. A squad that isn't good enough in terms of a depth of squad. We don't have the luxury of always being able to rotate players because there is drop-offs in a lot of positions. Our squad depth is poor. And also, I think when you're having a poor season, you automatically accumulate more injuries. I think there's loads of things that come into play. Last season, we were just playing game after game after game. This season, we dropped out of competitions early, so there's more room for training sessions. Is that hampering us? Sometimes when you're in the flow of game after game after game, you actually, you're in that flow, you're in that rhythm. When you have a stop, start, that can induce injuries. So there's so many different things that need to be looked at, of course. 1 second, everybody. Just trying to find. Here we go. Sorry, I lost my chat there for a second. And Sanil Dewan says, any news on the new potential left back? We need it badly. I've not got exact names of who it's going to be. There was a report coming out earlier I'm going to bring up in a second. Let me get it up actually, because seeing as you asked so nicely with a lovely super chat, I'll get it up now for you that I've got in here. And it's the Atletico Madrid left back. I forget his name. I'm going to get it up now. That we've been linked to this morning, but I honestly don't think there's anything in it at all, to be honest with you. Let me get it up. God, come on. I've got so many different tabs open with so many different bits of information. So here we go. Atletico Madrid left back Reinildo Mandava, I'm probably butchering that name, is on Manchester United and Aston Villa's radar. He has a year left on his Atletico Madrid contract and it would be available for around 8 million this summer. So, Reinildo could go from Atletico Madrid to Aston Villa or Manchester United in the summer. He's 30 years old, by the way. I've been told weekly by Fabrizio Romano that Manchester United are going to go for a young left-back in this summer window. Of course, things can change. I don't see us doing this deal, to be honest with you. I've seen us linked with multiple different players. I've seen us linked with Kirkes from Bournemouth. I've seen us linked from Doherty from Luton. I've seen us linked from Robinson from Fulham. I've seen us linked with a couple other left-backs that I can't remember. We do keep getting linked to younger left-backs. I don't think we'll buy someone who's 30 years old to come in at left-back. I don't. Obviously, he's cheap at 8 million. It could be a bargain. But I honestly see us going for somebody who is young but going to be super impactful and he's ready to take the next step, personally. But we do need to get a proper good left-back in. I do agree with you. United 1 says, Beth, you missed my previous super chat. I didn't. I read it out. I read it out about the only one I have is the great news that Sir Ratcliffe plans to launch a thorough investigation into injuries. I read that out, United 1. I read it out if you rewind a little bit. Patrick Lynch says, these kind of links where players believe fans will pin everything wrong on the manager. Bad performances are on both, not any one individual. And United Nick says, even though he's made bad decisions, the most important thing is the clear out. I've done that one. Thank you everyone for your super chats this morning. Get your comments in and let me know how you are feeling. So next up is, so I did this bit. Manchester United Insider described the mood among the squad as miserable, with many players convinced Erik Ten Hag will be sacked this summer. Spoke about that. It's unfair just to pin it all on the manager. Now, next little bit of news I wanted to move on to, and it is about Graham Potter. So it came out late last night on Steen that Graham Potter declined chance to become the Ajax manager. 48-year-old Englishman held talks with the 4-time European champions and emerged as a leading contender, known to have been impressed by Ajax but felt the project was not right for him at the present. There's been lots of back and forth on Graham Potter to Ajax. It felt like he was going, then it felt like he wasn't going to go there, and then it felt like he was going again. It was basically nailed on. He was going to get the Ajax job. It felt like Graham Potter was going to go to Ajax, but there has been some toing and froing with it, and I feel like Graham Potter was on the fence on whether to take that job or not. Why would Graham Potter not want to take the Ajax job at this point in his career? He might just want to stay in the Premier League. I understand that. But also, what if you know the Manchester United job is coming up at the end of the season? What if you already have connections to INEOS, Dan Ashworth, Sir Ratcliffe? If you have a chance of getting the Man United job, you can't take that Man United job if you've already took the Ajax job. You never know. There might be some phone calls going on saying, because we know that, we've known for a long time, Ben Jacobs on the show has said it, INEOS were massive fans of Graham Potter and wanted to get him in to be the head coach of Nice. There've been conversations there, there's a relationship there, there's a relationship with Dan Ashworth as well. They might have rang him up and said, Graham, I'm not promising anything, but there could be a potential that you could be in line for the Man United job in the summer. Just hold fire a little bit longer. We need to make our decision. And Graham Potter might well have had that in his mind when declining the Ajax job. Of course, there could be other contributing factors, and you don't want to be completely narcissistic and make it all about Manchester United, but Manchester United is a huge opportunity, and we know how much INEOS liked Graham Potter and wanted him for the Nice job. That doesn't mean that they think he's suitable for the United job, but he's been talked about as a potential candidate, and I would genuinely not rule him out. I think it's a big chance that Graham Potter could become the new Manchester United manager come the summer. I really, really do. I mean, there's talks that apparently he doesn't want to uproot his family and move abroad. I mean, I get that, but also Ajax is a very well-respected club, and it's a great club to get your career up and moving. Like, it really is. Like, Ajax would be a brilliant job for Graham Potter, especially after the disaster which was the Chelsea job. It was a chance for him to kind of rebuild his career. Why is he not taking that? Has he got other options in the Premier League? Could one of them options be Manchester United, which obviously would be a huge job for him, but I think he would absolutely want it. And it's actually come out from Ben Jacobs as well at a similar time that Graham Potter would be very tempted by the Manchester United manager role if he was offered an interview should the vacancy arise. So Graham Potter wants the Man United job if the opportunity arises, which is obvious. You know, I know a lot of people say, you know, what manager would want to come to Manchester United? It's a career ruiner, and it has been. And I do think there's managers that would probably have doubts into going into that job. But 100%, there is a lot of managers out there that would relish the opportunity to take on the new Manchester United under Sir Jim and under INEOS that is going to make these changes and going to give you full support behind the scenes. So, you know, to be the first manager to take on this new era, I think it'd be a really exciting time for whoever does get it. So Graham Potter, there's talks of Tuchel, there's talks of Southgate, there's talks of even Erik Ten Hag staying on, which I think is looking more and more unlikely by the day. But Graham Potter would not rule him out. I honestly wouldn't. Great connections with INEOS. There was a rumour that I heard yesterday, and it's only a rumour, so do not obviously take it with a pinch of salt, is what I would say about this one. That Sir Jim Ratcliffe and INEOS are big fans of Graham Potter. They want to appoint him as the next Manchester United manager, but they're waiting until Dan Ashworth comes into the club to make that decision on the manager and hard launch basically that manager decision, especially considering Dan Ashworth already has connections with Graham Potter. So, you know, as soon as Dan Ashworth makes it into the club, which could be sooner than we think, Romano said keep an eye on when his appointment could be. A lot of people thought it would be next season. It could be sooner than we think because of, you know, the legal situation with Newcastle right now that we're entering into. It's getting closer and closer with Dan Ashworth. As soon as that appointment looks a lot clearer, I think we could hear a lot more things come out around the manager situation, and Graham Potter is one that I think is a big candidate. And I would say if he's on the table for the job, I think INEOS would be leaning towards that. And I think they'd be leaning towards it more than Southgate personally. And I think the fan base would accept it more than they would accept Southgate. But get in the comments what you guys think on that one. I mean, talking about Potter and Southgate, it's like, honestly, if like, do you know when you see them, have you seen them TikToks where it's like, what would the things that would send a Victorian child into a coma? Things that would send, you know, 2018 me into a coma. The fact that we're speaking about Southgate or Graham Potter for a Man United job in 2024. Like, it's mental that these things are just kind of accepted nowadays. How the mighty have fallen that we're discussing either Gareth Southgate or Graham Potter for the Manchester United job. But on a serious note, it's also coming out that, and this is from the Mirror as well, the Mirror have had some really good things come out surrounding Erik Ten Hag since he's been the manager at Manchester United. But they've put out there that Erik Ten Hag is expected to be sacked by Manchester United at the end of the season, and they've said the two leading candidates to replace him are Gareth Southgate and Thomas Tuchel. So I'm going to put to you guys here on the show your four options, because we're going to do a poll. We're going to get a poll going and we're going to discuss it, because I think Graham Potter is massively in the race for this as well. Apparently they're looking at Graham Potter and Gareth Southgate as two managers that could like lay the foundations, and okay, yes, they've not got stacks of trophies behind them, but they feel like they could bring a good morale to the team. That's just Ole Gunnar Solskjaer 2.0 really, isn't it? And I loved Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Generally, if you're talking about, if someone said to me now, Southgate or Solskjaer, I'm picking Solskjaer every day of the week, by the way. Every day of the week. Potter, I'm a little bit more open to, but the thing is with Potter, I actually think he is a good coach, but I don't think he has the personality to manage a Manchester United dressing room with big characters. Maybe with the new structure in place that INEOS are planning to provide and the overhaul of the squad, he might be able to do that. But at Chelsea, it just gave me no hope whatsoever that he was able to manage egos and big players and manage a dressing room. Some of his press conferences and interviews I found quite cringeworthy, to be honest with you. Seems like a lovely guy, don't get me wrong, but I just don't know if he can manage a big club. But then again, like, Chelsea is just walking into failure, isn't it, with the structure that they've had in place. So it's an interesting one. But I'm going to do a poll. Out of these four options, what would you want? Because I think these are the most likely, considering all the news that we've heard. So the first one, producer, let's get the poll going. The first one is Southgate. Second one is Tuchel. Third one is Potter. And the fourth one is Erik Ten Hag remains, because Erik Ten Hag could remain. I feel like a lot of people will vote for that, but should I even add, actually, before we make the poll, should I add Erik Ten Hag to the poll? Because I want to hear what people would actually want out of Southgate, Potter or Tuchel. We'll leave Ten Hag out of it, because it is an option, we'll leave Ten Hag out of it, but I want to put in Southgate, Tuchel and Potter, which one you would want. And I know what you're thinking, Beth, that's like going to, it's like going to like, you're going to get some ice cream, or actually no, you're going to get some cookies and the only options are like raisin. Like, I don't want a raisin cookie, I want chocolate chip. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's a poor selection. It's a poor option. It's like when you get to, it's like when you, I don't know how to even put it, but it's like when you're last in a queue and there's like nothing left there and you just kind of got the scraps left. Like, it's like that, isn't it, really? But there's no standout manager to come and take over Manchester United at the moment, to be honest with you. A lot of people are saying none of them, but at the end of the day, it's going to be one of them probably, because I do think it's very likely that Erik Ten Hag gets sacked. I do. Whether that's the right decision or not, I would honestly, with them options, I would give Ten Hag one more season. I keep going back and forth on it, but I would give Ten Hag one more season just to see, because looking at them options, there's just not anything that strikes you. Like, I'm looking at them options thinking, you know, what's Solskjaer doing next season? Do you know what I mean? Like, if it wasn't Ten Hag, I'm looking at them options thinking, you know, I've never wanted Mourinho back, ever. Even though I love Mourinho, I've never wanted him back. But I'm looking at them options thinking, you know, maybe actually. Like, there's just not the options that you'd want for the Manchester United manager job. A lot of you guys are saying Erik Ten Hag another season in the chat. That's the thing, and I get why people would want Ten Hag to be sacked, and do not get me wrong, if there was a Nagelsmann available, if there was, you know, say if Xavi Alonso hadn't have had that connection with Liverpool in the past and he was an option available to us, say if there was an Erik Ten Hag, for example, right, if we never got Erik Ten Hag as the Manchester United manager and we ended up going for Pochettino and we were actually making a change this summer, Erik Ten Hag would be our manager. He would be. If he hadn't already got a job previously, someone else probably would have snapped him up. But say if there was like a standout candidate, I would completely understand sacking Ten Hag because it has been an atrocious season. But I'm looking at a list of Tuchel, Potter and Southgate. Why has the vote already ended? Okay, we're changing the vote. But so if Erik Ten Hag was, you know, an option now, and he hasn't been appointed before, you would be going and getting him. Because at the time when we got Erik Ten Hag, everyone was so excited. He seemed like the standout option. Everyone was so buzzing around that appointment. If you have Potter, Tuchel and Southgate, like, is anyone really getting excited over any of them? I mean, if it's Southgate, I'm genuinely ringing up and cancelling my season ticket. If it's Potter, I would give him a chance because I think he's a good coach. I just don't know if he's got the personality to manage Manchester United. And if it's Tuchel, I think it's the opposite. I do think he's like a good coach. I don't want to be disrespectful, and I do think he has personality. I'm just not 1,000% sold. I don't think he's got the ceiling that I would want. But it's tough times in the managerial market. It is tough times. But get your votes in the chat now. Who would you rather have? Potter, Tuchel, Southgate, or keep Ten Hag? We've changed the vote. I wanted to keep the vote, honestly. Producer absolutely crumbled to all of your moaning. I would have kept the poll as it is because I know the majority of you guys would want to keep Ten Hag. So this vote is going to be massively skewed. I wanted to hear, say if Ten Hag got sacked today and you had to pick Potter, Tuchel or Southgate, which one you would go with. I wanted to hear that, but producer couldn't deal with the heat. KD Karma says, previous management had less injuries. Ten Hag gets frustrated from losing, overtrains players exhausted so don't perform. Some players must go as well as the manager. The manager has no style of play. A lot in that super chat. Thank you for your super chat. Well, Ten Hag did get the players in at 7 a.m. yesterday morning, hopefully for a good old hairdryer treatment. That is massively needed right now. Ashim, thank you for your super chat. Marquito says, better value for the team if we spend the Erik Ten Hag compensation on player and facilities and keep Erik Ten Hag for an extra season with the better support. Exactly, you've got to think about that. You're paying Ten Hag 10 million out to go as well. Like, you're paying money out for Ten Hag to leave. Next season, if you go in, considering this summer, obviously it's going to be an INEOS summer, and I'm not making excuses, but it's not going to have the full INEOS summer shine to it, because Omar Barada's only starting in July. Dan Ashworth isn't in yet. Like, if you give Erik Ten Hag next season, start him next season, if he begins to fail next season, then, he won't have long left on his contract. I think his contract expires at the end of next year, but then there's an argument to think do you have to make a decision on his contract? But anyway, if you give him next season, you can evaluate it then. And I keep saying this to people, what rush is anybody in, by the way? What rush is everybody in to completely reset and hit the panic button? Because even though I understand sacking Ten Hag, I get it. We're not going to win the Premier League or the Champions League anytime soon, no matter who we get in. You could get prime Pep Guardiola in, and we still wouldn't win straight away. It takes so long to kind of rebuild this culture and this structure and this team at Manchester United. We've not been close to winning a Premier League or a Champions League in over a decade. We've not. So changing the manager now when Erik Ten Hag has a year left and there's not really anybody out there that's striking you, should we not just give him a chance next season? I get why people don't want to, because you've got to look at the standards at Manchester United, and this is the worst season we've ever had. I get all of them points, but it's just food for thought, because their managerial options really are proper poor. They really are. A lot of people say Tuchel, isn't a poor manager, and he's not. He's a good manager, but it's never been the route that I've wanted Manchester United to go down, the Thomas Tuchel route. If we got him, I would 1,000% back him and get behind him, and I'd really hope for the best with him. But it's not something that I envisioned the style of what Manchester United would go with. Nifin Gopa Kumar says, I find it unbelievable. Yes, players are crap, but Ten Hag's coaching philosophy is also not suited for the Prem. Rush is you lose Tuchel if you don't act quickly. So that's somebody who really is interested in getting Thomas Tuchel. Well, Tuchel could end up with a Chelsea job, but I actually think Chelsea might stick with Pochettino. And I think, to be honest, if I was Chelsea, I'd give Pochettino another season as well, because of the situation they're in. They've got so many issues behind the scenes at that club as well. But Tuchel could end up getting the Chelsea job. He could end up doing really well at Chelsea, and then with Erik Ten Hag next season, still in the same situation, and everyone's saying, why didn't we get Tuchel when we had the chance? We should have made that move. But INEOS are taking their time. They're not rushing into anything. The one thing I would say is, on the Talk of the Devils podcast, the Athletic podcast, Laurie Whitwell was saying, and he's always been for the Athletic, saying that, INEOS will make a decision at the end of the season, INEOS will make a decision at the end of the season. But he did say he's not convinced that Ten Hag will even make it till the FA Cup final. I think that's what he said. He said he's not had anything to say that Ten Hag will be sacked before then, but he said he's not convinced that Ten Hag could even make it to manage in the final, which I think he has to manage the final. There's a lot of talk from people saying sack him before the final to get the new manager bounce and give us our best opportunity. But realistically, I think if a manager gets to a final, they should play it. And I think with Mourinho at Spurs, that was a bad decision, sacking him before that final and not giving him the opportunity to play the final. I think Ten Hag should at least get the opportunity to play the final. That's my personal opinion. But a lot of people would rather have the new manager bounce and give us an opportunity, and maybe that would give us more opportunity if the players are that against Ten Hag and are that miserable in the dressing room around Erik Ten Hag at the moment. But leaks coming out the dressing room, playing the blame game. Alexa, play the blame game by John Legend and Kanye West. That must be the theme tune that a lot of these players go by. Honestly, is that what gets played going into the dressing room at times? Feels like that way. But United, same old story. We need a massive overhaul. There is some good eggs in there. There's some players that I do respect and I do think have the right attitude to play for United. But there's a lot of players that need to be removed from the football club, need to start afresh. And there's a lot of things behind the scenes that need a lot of changes. And the manager saga continues. Who will it be? What is the poll on? I am going to vote now. Can we tell me the results of the poll? It's not working for me. Darren Mullaney says, if players down in tools, Sir Jim should pull the players and warn them of a pay cut. It's not as simple as that. I wish it was. Daniel Greig says, I do believe Ten Hag's plan is to weed out the weak. That might be the reason INEOS have been silent while stick playing the same playing style. I hope it is, but then a lot of people would say a lot of the weak players are Erik Ten Hag signings themselves. And I would understand that. I would understand it. It's a tricky situation because when you try and say, well, Ten Hag just needs to get his own players in and he just needs to, do the squad overhaul, a lot of the players that need overhauling are players that he's bought. Well, you can't really say he's bought, but have been bought in under Erik Ten Hag's reign. So there's so many mitigating factors into this. And who would you rather have? Keep Ten Hag is 71%, Tuchel is 19%, Potter is 4%, and Southgate is 5%. Wow, people voted Southgate. I know it's only 1% more than Potter. Never in a million years. I'd have Potter every day of the week over Gareth Southgate. I don't think Gareth Southgate could manage a Fulham or anything like that. Genuinely, I'd have Marco Silva any day over Gareth Southgate. Like, he's just not of the calibre that I think INEOS feel like he is, and that's the only red flag I have with INEOS right now, the fact that they rate Southgate. I also think there'll be too much backlash if they go and get Southgate, but I agree. I think Tuchel would be my preferred option out of them three, but it's still not something I'm 100% sold on. But look, everyone, thank you for listening to the morning show. Thank you for getting all your super chats in. Some great super chats recently. And in this horrible time for Manchester United, we've got the community and we've got each other. I am pre-recording this afternoon a preview for the Arsenal game with AFTV, so that'll be interesting. That'll be out on Saturday. I feel like I have nothing to say. I'm going to be just completely be humbled on this one, because do you remember when United were actually better than Arsenal not so long ago? And now Arsenal have just raced off ahead of us because they stuck to a project. Interesting stuff. I'll be speaking to Cecil from AFTV this afternoon. It'll be out on Saturday on the United Stand, getting all his thoughts on Manchester United, Erik Ten Hag, how it can relate to the Arteta situation. Arteta out, remember that? I'll be bringing that up. And yeah, just going to do that this afternoon. Mark's back with the Erik Ten Hag presser this afternoon, which will be live, so you can tune into that. And this weekend, it's meant to be really sunny up in Manchester, which I'm absolutely buzzing about. Not going to let it ruin my weekend. Hopefully Manchester United don't get slapped up. It's a big possibility, but hopefully not. And the one thing I could say is, even if we do lose, at least it keeps Arsenal in that title race and stops City from getting the fourth in a row. But anyway, guys, I'm going to love you and leave you on this Friday. Hope you've got some lovely plans and you've got a nice weekend planned in England, which is sunny this weekend for a change. Stay tuned for Erik Ten Hag's presser with Mark at 1:30. I think it'll be around that time. And I will see you on the next one.